What's up YouTube, Dell here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you my first place undefeated Tenpai profile. Now we did an event this weekend which allowed us to play via the new ban list and using all of the new cards from Legacy of Destruction to get a head start on the format. So I was luckily able to put together the Tenpai, and what I like to do with the brand new high expected decks is get to play them at least once, just so I can learn the ins and outs of it, so whether I'm facing it or of course I want to continue playing it, I will know what the deck can do. It was really good to kind of get the lowdown on this deck. It was great to introduce it to the environment as well, just so that people knew what to expect. I feel that this is one of the best decks that Konami has ever printed, on the basis that I believe it is a very good deck for a lot of starters to get into it. It's very aggressive, it has a direct route of exactly what it wants to do, and it's really basic. There's a lot of starters to make it very easy and interactive in order to be able to build up their combos very easily without needing to worry about so many forms of interruption from your opponent. That being said, at this current moment in time, the pages are the most expensive cards, sitting at about £15 a copy, but I do expect once the set is more widely opened that these prices will drop. This does also involve a Trident Dragon, but for now the main reason you're using Trident Dragon is it allows you to play 3 Pot of Prosperities and still OTK. This deck does have a massive flaw in the sense that it is not that great going first, which is why you do want to be playing a Trident Dragon to complete the OTK through a Pot of Prosperity. However, if you don't have access to it, you can still play the deck on a tidy budget in order to be able to keep it at a base level and not worry about Pot of Prosperity, but play something like Pot of Desires instead. So what we'll do in this video is I'm going to take through the entire profile, show you what we've got, explain why we've got it, and then at the end of the video I'll show you the basic combo so you know where the deck starts and ends. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. This deck ended up facing Snake Eyes, Goblin Bikers, and of course 2 Voiceless Voice matchups, which is definitely a nice little range to give you the balance of combo orientated, control orientated, and then just out and out restrictive with the form of the Voiceless Voice. So massive shout out to Leo who lent me the final pager that I needed for the locals, and this one is your main card, which is why it is so hyped and so expensive. So this one on normal or special gives you the ability to set or add a Sangan spell or trap from the deck to the hand. That will give you access to the quick play, which during the battle phase lets you add a Tenpai from the deck to the hand and special summon it, or if you do it outside the battle phase you can either add one or special one from the hand. On top of that, they all have the same quick effect that during the battle phase you get to synchro summon using that card and then one other, and there's already only one other main deck tuner, the other one is a synchro. On top of that, this then gives you the ability that that your fire dragon monsters, you don't take any battle damage involved in them, which is really important when you get a card that says they can't be destroyed by battle in the form of the Fardra. So the next card that you're going to be maxing out on, and it is another one of your 1-card starters, is the form of the Chandra. Now the reason this one is so good is if you control a fire dragon monster, you get to special on this card from the hand for free. At the start of the damage step, if a monster battles in any way, so it doesn't even need to be itself, if one of your opponent's monsters attack you, you get to special summon a level 4 or lower fire dragon from the deck except itself, and that will lead you into the Fardra. Of course, it still has the quick effect during the battle phase to synchro summon as well. We are playing 2 of the Fardra. Now, you'll be seeing a couple of builds that will actually play 1 of this. I actually found myself siding this out very easily down to 1 in those particular times when I didn't feel that it was that useful, because it's not a card you want to be normal summoning. The only time you want to normal summon it is if you've already opened up the Chandra, but what this does have is it means all of your fire dragons cannot be destroyed by battle, which is really important when you try to play it a little bit more defensively and build a wall. On top of that, when an attack is declared, again, either itself or any other card, you get to special summon a fire, level 4 or lower fire dragon monster from your graveyard. So again, this is how you're able to go into stuff like synchro off, attack with a Fardra or anything else, bring back the Chandra. That's how you've then got the additional tuner that you need to make to continue your synchro plays. For the spell cards, we're playing triple Kaiman. So this card is absolutely insane as well. So this is the one that you're going to want to get off of your pager, because that's how you're going to be able to either add directly outside the battle phase the Chandra. And the reason you would do that is if they Ash Blossom you, you're still able to continue. Whereas if you do this during the battle phase and they Ash Blossom you, you will be in a bit of trouble. The best thing about that is all of your monsters are kind of protected, but your spells are not protected via your field spell. So you do need to keep that in mind. This is going to be one of the weak spots if you are facing this deck. So during the battle phase, like I said, it will let you add a level 4 or lower fire dragon from the deck to the hand, and if you activate it in the battle phase, you get to then use the additional effect as well to special summon a fire dragon from the hand. Apply these effects if you apply one of these effects, but if you activate in the battle phase, you apply them in sequence. So you can add and then summon the one that you add. Outside of it, you just do one or the other. And then of course we've got triple Sangan Summoning. Now why this card has the first effect I'll never know, it's too OP for this deck. But during your main phase 1, fire dragon monsters you control are unaffected by your opponent's activated effects. So you don't need to worry about imperms, veilers, ashes, you name it, it protects him, which is mad. But then you'd still just Ash Blossom this. Anyway, if that wasn't enough, during your main phase, you get to add a Tenpai Dragon from the deck to the hand and then discard a card. And then if this card is destroyed during the battle phase, you get to target a Dragon Synchro monster you control and double its attack. You actually have two ways of being able to do that in the form of either your Bident Dragon or Drygon, and of course your Trident Drygon, which is how you get Trident Drygon up to 6k attack and can attack 3 times. Pretty mental. Because the field spell is that important, we are also playing Terraforming. You do play Ancient Fairy in the extra deck, but that's more so when we get to the side deck because you might want to go for a more effective field spell if you are going first. However, you could also main deck one as well and go for set rotation instead. So, as you can see, that is pretty much the core. So the core is relatively tidy. It only takes up half your deck. You've got a huge amount of consistency. So what does that then allow you to do? Well, it allows you to play a crap ton of hand traps. But before we play the crap ton of hand traps and board breakers, our other consistency card, of course, will be Pot of Prosperity. Now, this is mainly only going to be in here for the Trident Dragon. Because the deck is very weak at going first, it has to OTK. If it doesn't OTK, it's going to be a bit more of a grind than the deck actually wants to go into, and it might end up losing more times than not when that happens. So you're only playing Pot of Prosperity when you've got the Trident Dragon. If you don't have the Trident Dragon, you're then going to be taking out the Pot of Prosperities, in my opinion, and you'd play something like a Pot of Desires or something else that'll get you a bit more effectiveness without having to do half damage. Very important. So that's the main consistency cards. Now the rest of it is going to be pretty much 50% of hand traps / board breakers. So for the hand traps, we have gone with Triple Nibiru, pretty much one of the hand traps of the format. If this changes, you then adapt it to main deck in Drolls or main deck in Mourners, you name it. Triple Ash Blossom, pretty standard on that one. Double Ghost Ogre, I just like the surprise factor of this. It might change in the future because this is such an important card to fight the Tenpais as well. Like, you can hit the field spell with this and it can be quite damaging for them. So Ghost Ogre can put in a lot of work, which is why you might see it being mained. And then, of course, got 2 Effect Veiler and then the 1 Bestial Magnamute, followed up by triple Imperm, for the pure fact that I still feel that this is one of the best generic hand traps whether you're going first or second. And then the Magnamute can then search you out a Tenpai should you need it during the end phase of your opponent's turn to help you increase your consistency. Then for the board breakers, I decided to go with 3 Forbidden Droplet. Absolutely insane. Like, you've got 1-card combos coming out of your ears, so when your 6th card is something like a Forbidden Droplet, you can burn quite a lot of resource in order to negate your opponent's board and then push in for the OTK because your 1-card combo gets you so far. 2 Triple Tactic Talents. Now, I played 2 Triple Tactic Talents and a Call by the Grave. Less so the Call by the Grave, but maybe the Talents. The one thing that I did feel that I was missing was a Kashtira Fenrir. I just feel that it's such a great card in order to deal with certain matchups like the Yubel matchup, when you kind of have to attack stuff, but you need to be able to banish them, and sometimes they can't be destroyed by card effects, sometimes they can. One thing that I think the Tenpais will struggle with is I feel that in a more control-heavy format, they need to be able to deal with back row. And if you're unable to deal with the back row, you then are going to struggle when you're trying to push for an OTK, especially when you're trying to take away that factor of worrying about winning the dice roll, and whether you win or lose, you're going to try and go second. You've also got to be slightly balanced, which is why I'm playing the droplets and the talents. Because of the amount of hand traps running around, the droplets still give me the ability to set, whereas the talents gives me the ability to look at my opponent's hand and take away a card they may need in order to complete their combo. Speaking of back row, I also main deck 2 Lightning Storm. This just gave me the balance of being able to deal with front row and back row should I wanted it, rather than main decking like a Duster and a Raigeki. But then there were scenarios where a Raigeki would have come up clutch. So that's pretty much it for the entire main deck. You adapt the hand traps and the board breaking section of the deck to the environment that you are going to. Some cards might be a little bit more effective in the main deck, some might be more effective in the side deck. Just adapt it as you see fit and go from there. For the extra deck, I'll go through all the link monsters first because they're the ones you're going to be going into the least, in my opinion. The only time you should be going into the link monsters is if they stopped your synchro plays or basically hit you with a D barrier. So for the link plays, we are playing the 1 Striker Dragon. Obviously, all of your dragons are level 4 or lower, so being able to go into the Striker Dragon gives you the ability to then link up into a Dart the Dark Charmer, or of course you can go into an SP Little Knight, which I wasn't playing in this build because you need to make sure you can still attack directly with the deck, so it can be a little bit of a hindrance. You can also work your way into a Heater, and the reason you do that is you then go into the fire combo of your Promethean Princess into a Raging Phoenix, and then Raging Phoenix into Zelantis. Again, if you're taking this back down to a basic level, I know that this is quite expensive right now, you would cut this out and you'd double up some of your synchro monsters, and you will just need to run into a D barrier, which is the one thing you need to be a little bit cautious of. The only Link monster that you will play and make no matter what you do or what build you make is of course the spheres. This is ideally done for going first because it is your best defensive option from the extra deck. It does allow you to play around Super Poly as well, and then it gives you that ability to get access to some of your Trident Dragons, or not Trident Dragons, sorry, your Tenpais, while also still giving you the ability to get into something along the lines of a Bestial Magnamute as well. For the Synchro monsters, now this is where it gets quite funny because if they are a Fire Dragon, they are protected by the Field Spell. Great success. So we start off with an Ancient Fairy Dragon. This is going to come into effect with the side deck because you do need to be playing 2 separate field spells, but that's when you're going to be using Ancient Fairy Dragon ability to gain life if you get close to time, which you really shouldn't be doing in a Tenpai deck anyway. I think in all of my matchups, I will pretty much complete within 20 minutes because you're either going to OTK or you're not going to be able to OTK and you scoop and you go to the next game. So. And then one of the MVPs I reckon on this deck now is going to be the Black Rose Dragon. The reason this is so important is with the field spell, it's unaffected during the main phase 1, so that when you do make Black Rose, you can nuke the entire board without any repercussions coming back to you, and that could be massively helpful for a Yubel matchup as well, because it will force them to use the ability of being able to contact fuse the Black Rose Dragon off, and straight away you've baited out a form of their interaction, while still not negating the effect of Rose to nuke the board, which is really, really important. Then, of course, we do play the one Odd Eyes Meteor Burst, so it's a dragon and it is fire. And what this does is it gives you the ability that monsters in your opponent's possession cannot activate their effects during the battle phase, which is obviously really important for stuff like Battle Fader, and then, of course, any monster effect on the board that might be able to stop your board being built. We are then playing the one Black Rose Moonlight Dragon, just for that bounce, especially in the Yubel matchup, which is one of the best counters for this deck, and in the Voiceless Voice matchup as well. Then for our Synchro level 10s, we are playing the Ruddy Rose Dragon. So again, Fire Dragon, and this just clears out your opponent's resources from the graveyard. Now, before we carry on, I'm just going to take you through the Senpais, or I kind of want to call them Senpais, but they're not. They're called like the Senganpais, but I want to call them Senpais. Either way. So you've got the Violent Dragon. So this is your level 7. This is your tuner. This is how you're going to be able to climb up even higher. So if it's Synchro summoned, you target a Fire Dragon in your graveyard and special summon it. So it can bring back anything, which is crazy. You can't special summon for the rest of the turn except dragons. Absolutely fine. If 3 or more attacks have been declared this turn, you get a quick effect to revive this from the graveyard. And it's just a tap declared. So if this is in your graveyard and you are having to go in the grind game, as soon as your opponent attacks 3 times, you bring this card back from the graveyard and defend up. It's insane. On top of that as well, when it is special summoned, you get to target, or like when you bring it back from the graveyard for that effect, you get a target spell trap on the field and destroy it. So that's how you can destroy your field spell and then give one of your cards a double attack. But you're going to be able to do that naturally for a Trident Dragon anyway. And then we've got the Sanganpai Transcendent Dragon. So this is your boss monster or dragon. This is your main boss monster outside of the Trident Dragon. So if you don't have access to that, you can probably double this up if you want to. Or I would also consider doubling this up because I actually really like this card. So this one is all monsters your opponent controls must attack if able, and then your opponent cannot activate cards or effects during the battle phase. If this card is Synchro summoned, you change all monsters on the field to attack position, and if 3 or more attacks have been declared this turn, you get a quick effect to special summon this card back from the graveyard, destroy 1 card on the field. You can only use this effect once per duel, and the exact same for the revival effect on that as well. Why is that so important? Well, your Trident Dragon is where it starts to shine. So this one, it cannot be special summoned except by Synchro Summon, which is exactly what you do. And when it is Synchro Summoned, you get to destroy up to 2 cards you control. And if you do, for each card destroyed, it gains this effect to gain an additional attack this turn. So when you're popping the field spell and then popping your Transcendent Dragon, this will then go up to 6k, can still attack 3 times. And if that's not enough to kill the game, you still have the ability to bring this back from the grave, destroy another card, and then attack again. It's absolutely mental. So that's it for the main and the extra. I'll show you the demo side deck now just so you have a bit of an idea. So mainly for your side deck, you're going to want to be cards that are going first or just balanced hand traps specifically for the format. So we start off with Triple Draw and Lockbird. Pretty straightforward and simple on that one. If the format doesn't call for Draw and Lockbird, cut it out. But I feel there's so many decks that search a lot that Draw is just massively helpful. Another card that is only if you're going first. And the reason I say that if you're only going first is because if you're going second, you don't want to drop this because then you're going to be under it during your turn. And you've already seen that a lot of your cards want to come back from the graveyard. And that is, of course, D-Shifter. So when you're side decking, what you'll usually do, if you're having to go first or you make that rogue call of going first, you'll put in 3 D-Shifter and you'll put in 3 Heatwave. And the reason for that is 90% of the time, these are going to be auto win cons. Not all the time with D-Shifter, but more times than not with Heatwave, unless they've got a Psyframe or Delta, and then you kind of cry a little bit inside. But the idea is this one has to be activated at the start of main phase 1. Neither player can normal or special an effect monster until the next draw phase. Now, the reason this is so important, but is also very overhyped, is the idea is you go first, you see this in your opening hand, you activate it, you pass. That is it. That's all you need to do. It comes back to you. They can't put anything on the board. You go for your OTK play. This is going to be very different in a control format in something like a Labyrinth, because as long as they can set up Labyrinth cards in order to build their board up or protect them as they need to, then this is going to be less effective. So this is definitely overhyped. Keeping in mind that there is a Lost Art version of this card as well that hasn't been released in the TCG yet, that we may see in the next wave of the Lost Arts. It could very easily also be a super rare in an upcoming OTS pack, because it is one of them old cards around. But both of these are only going in first. I would not put these in going in second at all, because relatively this is just going to be completely pointless. You're going to shut yourself off and leave your opponent with a board already built. And then this one, you will not have your graveyard, which you kind of already need with your Fada plus your 2 Synchros that want to keep coming back from the graveyard. So the other cards I decided to play to try and deal with my opponent's graveyard was Necro Valley and the Gravekeeper's Inscription. Obviously Necro Valley can hurt you, but the idea is you're going to be adding this to your end board if you've already not had the ability to OTK, or you're going to add it to your board so that it stops your opponent during their turn and then replace it with your Sangan field spell instead. The Gravekeeper Inscription was just one of those ones that if you are going second, you activate this. It means your opponent can either not bring back from the graveyard, cannot activate card effects in the graveyard, and or can't special from the graveyard. So being able to apply one of those effects can be very damaging if your opponent wants to keep looping stuff back from the graveyard, which is very, very important. And the last 3 cards I was playing with 2 Cosmic Cyclones and the 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, just to deal with all those back rows, being able to deal with some of the continuous spells that people are going to be trying flipping up on you, and any kind of mini floodgates that they might try and do as well. So the only thing that you can't stop with this entire extra deck is a D barrier, and that's probably one of the biggest issues for this deck right now, and that's why you need to play the Link monsters. But like I said, I feel that D barrier will only come massively relevant if this deck starts to take off, which I'd expect it to do at the local environment. So don't be surprised if people are playing the D barriers. You just need to find a way to go, right, okay, well, I'm going to counter side for the D barriers and either put in something like a cross out, which would be very, very funny, and then complete your OTK, or you're going to adapt it a little bit differently and go, you know what, I'll eat the D barrier, but I've already preempted that I'm going to eat that, so I'll still have the ability to OTK if they don't have it, but if they do, I can set up my own defensive board and then break off the back of it. So that's it for the entire profile. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the very basic combo. So all you want are your starters. Any one of your starters will work out nicely. These 3 are going to be 1-card combos, whereas this one is a 1 card plus a random discard, which is very important as well. I'm going to start off with the Sangan Summoning, just so you can kind of see the max potential that this has with the ability of being protected. It's very simple, very straightforward, nothing too crazy with it, which is why I feel it's a great deck for all starters out there as well. So you're going to start off with your Sangan Summoning. You're going to use the effect, and this is going to allow you to add your Paedra while discarding a random card. So any random card from your hand is completely fine. You're going to normal summon down the Paedra. This is then going to allow you to add the Cayman. Now you've got the ability, like I said, if you activate this during the battle phase, yes, you get more from it, but it is a little bit risky because they might try and Ash Blossom you. Whereas with this one, if you activate this now and they do Ash Blossom you, you still have 3 additional cards to keep playing with as well. But the idea is you're going to want to add the Chandra. Obviously, if we do this outside of the battle phase, you add the Chandra, use this effect to special summon it down, great success, you've got the exact same outcome. If you go to the battle phase, you just activate this, add this, and special to it, all through the same effect. Now the idea is you're going to declare an attack with the Paedra, you're going to be able to trigger the effect of the Chandra to special summon 1 from the deck, and that's going to get you your Fadra. So at this exact moment in time, what you've got is you've got your cards can't be destroyed by battle, and then you're not going to take any battle damage, so it doesn't matter what towers you're swinging into. So you swing with the Paedra, swing with the Chandra, these 2 have both used their effects. Now it's very important that you use the Chandra effect to synchro here, not the Paedra. You're going to need to save that for later on. So we're going to use the Chandra's effect. This will then allow us to synchro the 2 cards that have already made their attacks. And this is going to go into your level 7, and this will be your Bident Dragon. Bident Dragon's effect will now trigger. You can bring back either of these, it doesn't make much of a difference, but you probably want to get the tuner back to the board, just in case your opponent does try and interrupt you at some point. You still have that tuner on the board to complete a Synchro Summon there, or a Synchro Summon there. You then declare an attack with the Bident Dragon or the Chandra again if you want to. This will then trigger the Fadra effect, which will then bring you back the Paedra, which means you're not going to be taking any battle damage with your Fire Dragons. Keeping in mind how many attacks you've already made, at this exact moment in time we have technically made 3 battle or 3 declarations, and that's important for the graveyard recursion of the Bident Dragon and the Transcendent Dragon later on. So we attack with this one, we attack with 17 again, attack with 15, attack with 16. So you've done all of your attacks you need to, and that's still not the end. So you're now going to activate the Paedra effect. This will then let you synchro summon with these 2 cards, and this will then get you into your Transcendent Dragon. This is now going to lock your opponent out of battle effects. These 2 have already attacked, and the only one that we haven't used the effect of yet is, of course, the Phaedra. So you're going to attack with this, that's another 3k. That's a 4th. No, that's more than 4. I think there's like 6 attacks now that we've done. Now what you're going to want to do is you've done more than 3 attacks. You can bring back your Bident Dragon. Bident Dragon can pop this if you want to, but you want to save that for your Trident Dragon. Imagining we don't have Trident Dragon, you get to attack with this, and again, great success. Then you can activate your Fardra, this will then synchro into another level 10 that isn't Trident Dragon, and that will complete your OTK anyway. Because we've got Trident Dragon, we're then going to use the effect of this to synchro with these two. Straight away, that will then put us into our next level 10, which of course will be our Trident Dragon. This will then use this effect to destroy 2 cards on the field, which will be your 2 of your cards, which will be your Summoning and your Transcendent Dragon. This now goes up to 6k and can attack 3 times, so 6, 12, 18. If that still isn't enough because your opponent has kept floating cards around, you still have the ability of bringing this back from the graveyard as well, destroy 1 more card and attack again. So you can see that we've attacked a hugely stupid amount of times, and that is what this deck is so good at. It's just out and out aggressive in the battle phase. It does have the protection to allow it to build up. The only issue is if your opponent does play out and just kind of forces out all of those interactions, stops the normal summon, stops you getting where you need to go, the deck will falter. It doesn't really want to be going into the grind game. It can do. There are ways for it to play in the grind game. It's just not what the deck wants to do. Anyway, that is it for the entire profile. Everything in one little nutshell for you. You've had a combo, you've had a main deck, an extra deck, and a full-on in-depth detailed breakdown of the deck for what you're expecting if you're going to face it or if you're looking to build it. Like I said, if you don't have the Trident Dragon, don't go crazy. I would not be buying it right now, especially when there is the possibility of an OTS reprint or a Rarity Collection 2 reprint. And even then, the deck can be played without it. You just can't play Pot of Prosperity. So you'd be looking to try and replace it for like, which would be something along the lines of a Pot of Desires. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Any questions, comments down below. More than happy to answer them as always. But for now, stay safe. And of course, happy dueling.